My name is Amol Nirgudkar. I'm the CEO of Patient Prism. And I have here with me my really good friend, Dr. Scott Drucker from Supply Clinic. And we've been wanting to have him on this show for such a long time, but he's been busy with what he does and what his company has done during this pandemic. Truly remarkable in terms of making sure that the necessary people have the right PPE. And Scott, Dr. Scott Drucker, he is a periodontist by training and founded a supply clinic with his brother Jacob in 2014. And it's an online marketplace for dental and healthcare supplies. He was one of our first guests at Patient Prism Academy back in 17. And he's contributed to our guide, which is going to be available for a download, which is the Safety in a Dental Practice Guide. Scott's been really, and his brother both, have been extremely innovative in terms of reconfiguring the supply chain when it comes to dental supplies before COVID as well. They've been trying to solve that problem even before that, and in kind of making sure that dentists have more options in terms of what's available to them at you know, and you know, this is the era of disruption. Scott's been a disruptor in the good way. That has made dental practices have more choice. The question to you, I have several questions for you right now because PPE seems to be the word of this year, right? People had no idea what PPE meant before this, but now PPE is becoming the fundamental need of dental practices today, and you are right in the midst of it. Right? And supply chains seem to have broken currently, and dentists are not able to start seeing their patients without having the appropriate PPE. So right off the bat, I know Supply Clinic is trying very hard right now to help first line people who need it. But tell us a little bit about what is happening with the PPE supply chain right now, as you see it within dentistry, or I mean overall, but within dentistry, which is our audience.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me, Amol. Great to be here with you virtually. So yeah, right at say kind of mid-March, there was a huge, huge spike in global demand for PPE, and of course at that time, everything was targeted for first-line responders, so folks in hospitals and specifically those treating COVID patients. And around that time, say mid to late March, and then through April, dental was pretty much in kind of hibernation mode, we can say. And so our primary focus was figuring out how to get PPE to a whole bunch of those first-line responders via hospitals, hospital systems, governments, that sort of thing. And since then, we've shifted. We know, of course, dentists are now ramping up again. Certainly seeing emergencies, if not more, and things kind of change state by state, as everyone knows. But from our perspective, it's super important that dentists are now equipped with what they need to treat patients, especially those emergent patients. It's in my opinion way better off to see those emergencies in a dental practice setting than it is to overwhelm an emergency room, right? So our focus has greatly shifted towards figuring out how to get as much PPE available for dentists as possible. And so we are working with the distribution network within the dental space that we've traditionally been working with. We've expanded that network quite a bit to get as much available as possible. So anything from different types of masks to gloves to gowns, face shields, etc., bouffant caps, shoe covers. All of that is super top of mind, and our team is very highly focused on PPE and on maintaining the availability through the site. So we stood up a landing page on Supply Clinic, so it's supplyclinic.com/PPE. And that page, or that landing page, is under constant curation. We're trying to make everything available that we possibly can, and adding as products run out. And so that we've sort of, I guess, gone through that transition and evolution into now, what most important for dental practices is just getting the proper protective equipment to be able to see their patients. So,
Well, the question really is in terms of what's happening with the PPE supply chain is
mhm.
as of today, dentists, I mean, it's not an abundant supply, right? I mean, it's still, the networks are still being built. Even if they come to
Sure.
you, it's not going to be like I can order for the next 3 months or 4 months. You still, so is that supply chain going to be fixed at a certain point in time soon? Or
Yeah.
timeline for that?
Yeah, there's this is really product dependent, and so the first biggest pain point that everybody had, and still continues to have, are masks. Masks are a super hot topic right now. There were not nearly enough, protective respirator style masks that are recommended as best for treating patients in a COVID environment. So there were many factories, mostly in China, that ramped up production of what are KN95s. Those are I guess the Chinese, I don't want to say equivalent, but most comparable to the N95, and they have their own system of testing. And things have been super messy recently with the FDA having, one list of 80 factories that were approved, and then cutting down that list. And N95s are extremely difficult to source right now because FEMA has essentially commandeered 3M's distribution of them. So 3M is drop shipping everything to hospitals and to governments per FEMA's directive. So those aren't on the market. There are some foreign manufactured N95s that do come in little spurts, and we try to get those up on the site when possible. And guidance is a little tricky because we have different bodies. We have the CDC, the FDA, the ADA, all kind of giving us some guidance. And effectively, what we're seeing now is that guidance is, N95s are best, and if you can't get those, use the next best thing that you can get your hands on. And so, it's caused quite a stir in the space. So looping back to your question about supply chain in general, was most broken with masks, and continues to be. I think the second most difficult product to procure on a immediate and short term basis is going to be isolation gowns. They're just extremely scarce, and we still see hospital customers and government customers purchasing them in very large quantities, making it much harder for smaller smaller entities to purchase. And in this case, even some of the largest DSOs in the dental space are still small entities when stacked up against hospitals and governments. And so,
You know,
I foresee a few months more of challenge procuring some of these products. And so I guess a general recommendation I have, and that I give to everybody that I speak with now, is expand your network of distributors that you're purchasing through. Check out every option available. Purchase where you can, because supply chain is going to be inconsistent. Lead times are way longer than dentists are used to seeing. We'll see 1 to 4 week lead times, 2-month lead times for some extra oral suction units that are coming onto the market. So general, piece of advice is expand out the network of where you're procuring. Search around and purchase. Obviously, happy to have customers come and purchase through Supply Clinic, but everybody should be expanding and kind of turning every stone to find what they can and stock up where they can.
well, that's great advice. I mean, what about buying from the back of somebody's trunk?
I don't know that I would recommend doing that. We're for everything that we list on our site, we're extremely diligent about where the product's coming from. Is the manufacturer an FDA registered factory? Is the product that they're selling FDA certified, et cetera, et cetera. And so you definitely want to be careful. There's everybody is seeing the same headlines that I am. There's a ton of counterfeit flooding the market.
Right.
It's not the most straightforward thing to navigate, but I wouldn't recommend purchasing from the back of a truck.
That's why, I mean, I've had this conversation with you in the past as well. about the importance of knowing where your stuff comes from,
Sure.
especially in a situation where we are today. We knew the news last week was those 60 or 70, 80 factories were not deemed to be,
Yep.
proper, those KN95 masks. So it's super important to obviously align as a dental practice or DSO with the right people that have the due diligence infrastructure
Mhm.
to exactly know where this is coming from, whether it's approved or not, and whether it's safe to use with your patients.
Right, and that's one. You make a really good point for anybody shopping anywhere through any seller. Uh, you know, hopefully the source of the supply is readily available and the certification is posted right up. And if it's not, definitely inquire, find out where the product's coming from, and ultimately, given scarcity, it becomes really difficult. And in a number of situations, it'll the customer is going to have to be super diligent about looking at certification where the product is sourced.
And the risk, Scott, as a where you're a clinician had for a second,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the risk is it the risk that if it's not a certified a good supplier and it's let's say it's a fake mask,
Mm-hmm.
is there a chance that it may not work? Is that the risk there?
Yeah, so there are a few different things to consider. I would say one is certainly the mask itself and just the filtration efficacy of it, and I think that's the reason a number of those factories were removed from the list, is because they were tested, and the KN95s are supposed to have 95% filtration efficacy, and
Okay.
uh, a number that were tested just didn't stack up there. Um, and one other thing to consider is the fit of the mask, and this is another piece that another huge topic of conversation that's come up, is fit testing and just fit of masks in general. N95s are going to be your most secure, and they are made. They don't have ear loops that go behind the ears. They have the two straps that go behind the head, and it gives it the best seal around the face. The next best seal option are the KN95s with the ear loops. They're not completely sealed, so there are small gaps, possibly at the top of the nose, the bridge of the nose, and by the cheeks, and a lot of interesting kind of tools or hacks have come up to be able to better fix and seal a mask to one's face. And so, general recommendation is get the best fit and filter that you can, and otherwise, if you can modify to enhance whatever you do have, do so. Uh, for those that have KN95, me personally, I'm wearing that with a surgical mask layered on top of it, and a face shield over that. And so there are multiple, layers of barrier there. Just that is the guidance, unfortunately, is do the very best that you can and just understand the products that you're using.
A great advice, obviously, because sometimes we get desperate and we'll buy stuff off of back of somebody's truck, and you have to be very careful about
Sure.
whether just because it looks the same doesn't mean it's the same.
Sure.
The pricing, as I'm talking to practices all over the country, the prices of this has changed. The pricing
It's
for
exploded. Oh yes.
and what are you seeing? What have you seen the evolution of pricing, what it was and what it is and what is expected to be in the future?
Sure. I mean, I've seen. I'll give a single example. We can take a box of the classic ear loop surgical masks that we were using, and those used to sell for, I don't know, $4 to $6 a box, something in that price range for a box of 50. Now those boxes of 50, those same exact boxes, often at lower levels, so it might have been a level 3 we were seeing at $6 or something like that. We're now seeing sold to large customers like hospital systems for anywhere from $30 to $50 per box. And so, yeah, it's prices have spiked astronomically. They may be starting to come down now, and hopefully will continue to. But that'll just kind of put into perspective some of the price explosion that we've seen. I think part of the issue here is that hospital systems used that purchase through medical distributors or GPOs like Cardinal, McKesson, Premier, Vizient, et cetera, were often sort of arranged or scheduled for just-in-time delivery, which is kind of the exact opposite of what you want for an emergency crisis situation. And so global demand just so far skyrocketed past supply that, there is this massive imbalance. And yep.
So that's one reason, right, why it takes a while. When you order a PPE, it's taking 1, 2 months, 4 weeks, 6 weeks to get that. What are, besides just that demand consideration, is it just hard to spin off a new factory to get this done? Is it not that easy? I mean, it's relatively simple things to make, right?
Yeah, super simple things to make. Unfortunately, the country with the landscape most equipped to do that quickly is China, and of course that's where we're most on edge, seeing counterfeit and products that shouldn't be coming through come through. And China has, in the process, increased their regulations around customs clearance and export. But yeah, we are seeing factories all over the world pop up to start making PPE, and there are a lot of factories in the U.S. that were not in the PPE space at all that have converted their lines to making face shields or different variety of masks or that sort of thing. So garment companies converting their even their fashion lines to medical gowns, isolation gowns. So we have seen a huge response in kind of pivots across the board for those that can produce products to producing PPE.
One of the questions I have, and I've been struggling with it for a while, is, all right, so we want to open up dentistry again. We can't open it without the PPE. And we have been told that we need N95s and we need the masks and the gowns and the shields and the vacuums and the rinses and the negative pressure. I mean, I don't know where does this end, and how do you strike the balance between clinicians or hygienists, for example, wanting everything in the book that's there versus, and this might be a periodontist question, this might be a dentist question,
Sure.
more than a supply clinic question. Where do you strike the balance? What do you really need it all?
Yeah, I think that's an extremely personal question, and every practitioner and every office is going to need to thread the needle there and find a balance with what they're comfortable with. I certainly wouldn't be treating patients if I didn't have masks and a face shield. That's me personally. I think unfortunately a bunch of the governing bodies that we would look to for this sort of very granular advice haven't given granular advice to the extent that we're breaking this down to. So, general advice is do get the best and the most protective equipment that you can, and treat your emergencies. And so, and some states are opening up obviously now beyond that. I think it's really a practitioner by practitioner decision, and as probably we all know by now, this has caused a little bit of tension between the dental community and the hygienist community, and there's a difference in feeling there where where folks are comfortable jumping back in to treat patients, and it's really something that each practice is going to have to, any practitioner is going to have to figure out.
I see the problem. The science is just not out there yet, right? In terms of what aerosols mean to the office, and what masks, shields, what percentage of aerosols. Right now, the hysteria is on Facebook, right? Everybody is like venting all their frustrations on Facebook, and everybody gets all riled up about all this stuff. The question, I mean, at the end of the day, so your recommendation from dentist is try to obviously secure as much PPE as you can from multiple distributors, not just you.
Yes.
Whatever you can get your hands on from the right distributors as well, not any any back of the car kind of thing.
Of course. Yeah.
Try now. How do we, in terms of ordering? if I'm a dentist, I need to order PPE from you, and I need to, how much can I order? Are you restricting those?
Yes, great question. Now I think is the first time a number of practitioners have seen maximum quantity restrictions, and so many of the sellers in our network you'll see as you go on the site on a product, when you go to add the product to the cart, there'll be a max quantity indicated there. This is extremely common practice now across the board for distributors. And part of the recommendation reason for my recommendation to kind of expand out your network of sellers, there are max quantities. You want to be cognizant of lead times when you're going to make that purchase, because they'll be indicated in the item name or the description. Yeah, I know. I can tell you on Supply Clinic, we've been extremely, you know, extremely careful to meet the requests of our sellers. So capping to the max that they want for any given product per customer. We've also been extremely good about limiting purchase of PPE to only licensed dental and healthcare practitioners. And so there's, if you go to supplyclinic.com and you make your account, we ask that you enter your license information, and our team goes through probably every hour throughout the day to verify licenses with states so that we can get them approved and get those dentists and other healthcare practitioners access to those products. So we've been very, very careful to limit who has access to these, because we want to preserve them for those in our community.
Absolutely. Quick question on masks. I forgot to ask you earlier.
Yes.
There's levels of masks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Level 3, level 2. Can you explain a little bit what that means?
Yeah, sure. So they're for surgical ear loop masks. There are 3 levels: ASTM level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 1, I believe, is 95% filtration. Level 3 is a 99 point something, 0.8 or 0.9% level of filtration. Level 2 is somewhere between the two of them. I'm not sure exactly where it falls. But level 3s are extremely scarce right now, because most factories are just pumping out level 1s. Level 2s are on the market, but difficult to find.
Right.
I believe we do have some level 2s up on the site, but yeah, again, it's just level of filtration. And so if you do have an N95 or a KN95, and then you're layering on top of that another mask that's even a level 1, a 95% filter, you're stacking them, and it's that much better protection having them stacked.
You could obviously use the level 2 and then put a surgical on top, and then you could potentially bring that filtration level.
So yeah, that's
mid-90s.
Exactly. So stacking them obviously increases the level of filtration, and it also keeps the mask underneath. So the KN95 or N95, if you have one, that's up against your face, it keeps that one from getting soiled, and you can replace the level 1, if that's what you have, from patient to patient, so that you're keeping things
So you could
clean and
potentially use, sorry about that. So you could
Yep.
potentially use, let's say you have an N95 on,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just keep changing the outer cover. Is that, you could do that among patients, or you got to just change it every single time?
I would. I mean, again, this is really up to the comfort level of the practitioner. Guidance is that those masks, the respiration masks, the N95s and KN95s, shouldn't be soiled. And so if you do have that physical barrier, it's much less likely to. But again, this is like a supply availability question. If if you don't have the mask to keep changing, every pair, every patient, then you have to make that decision. What's the next best thing?
It's a
What you're
personal
calling.
decision. I completely agree with you. It's going to be based on what the clinician feels the safe thing is.
Exactly.
And you can't really force people to reuse anything. And I mean, it really is something you cannot force. And now, obviously, we've been recommending people to do the similar things and go check out Supply Clinic. what's the best way to, and we're going to put this contact information and all the information on the screen right here.
Mhm.
What's the best way to get enrolled and start ordering from you guys?
Yep. So the general site is supplyclinic.com. The PPE landing page again is supplyclinic.com/PPE. Um, you can, from any of those pages, there's a sign in, sign up button. Again, be very cognizant of the fact that these are only available for licensed practitioners. So when you sign up, enter your license. There will be a little bit of a lag because we have to verify that license. But of course, that keeps more supplies available for our community. And if you're if you're looking to move quickly, you can sign up, put in your license info, and then ping us through the chat or via email or phone, and say, hey, I've got my license info in, I'm ready to go. Can you help get that license verified? And our team will definitely take care of it. So.
Well, we certainly recommend everybody checking this out. Do you have like a constant shipment of things coming in, or how does it work? I mean, how much do you have is the question. Like, because the demand is unlimited right now.
Yeah, that's correct. Demand's pretty unlimited. Supply is the challenge. We're a marketplace, and so we're working through a distribution network, and we keep pretty close tabs of which sellers are expecting what in. We have for many of the products there, you'll see the stock level availability. Of course, be cognizant of lead times. They're I don't know if you want to call it just a long lead time or almost like a pre-order, but be cognizant of that. And we're working with, I don't know at this point, maybe 150 different sellers to try to get product stateside, ship ready, and doing that on a constant basis. So.
Well, I know you have a lot on your plate, and you got to get back to getting this done and getting our industry started. We appreciate your efforts in being responsible in this whole pandemic to have the right pricing and have the right approach to helping dentists. I certainly appreciate that effort on your part. Obviously, you're one of them as well. And thank you so much for spending some time with me. And I'm hoping that we resolve these issues in the next few months, and dentistry can start back again. So thank you again, Scott.
I hope so, Amol. Thank you so much for hosting me. Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you, sir.